What's going on, everyone? Kevin and Angel back again with another video here inside of the Dollar Trainer community. And today, Angel and I are going to talk a little bit about just what we see as typically the number one reason why we see that like dog training businesses aren't succeeding. And so what we were actually on a call, a coaching call together a couple days ago. And we were talking with a client about her numbers and what was working inside of her business, what wasn't. And I've seen this with a lot of people where I think what they think is they have a sales problem. They think, oh, I'm not that good at sales. And what it turns out to be is that they're actually pretty good salespeople and they actually have a pretty good closing rate when they get in front of people for the evaluations. The problem is they're never actually getting to that point where they get the opportunity to go and do a consultation with them. So they don't actually have a sales problem. Most of you probably don't actually have a sales problem. If you're struggling in your business, what you more than likely have is an appointment setting problem. And so I can break that down a little bit further, and Angel can kind of explain her perspective on this as well. But in a lot of businesses in sales departments, the main two positions, and this is a massive oversimplification, but just to make things simple for today, the two main job roles are appointment setters and then closers, salespeople, right? And so a lot of times it's often overlooked where the salesperson is the most important thing. Like the closer, they're the one who gets like all of the kind of like accolades and stuff like that. And people look at them as super important. But the role of being a really good appointment setter is equally as important because they're the one that obviously sets up the sales call for the salesperson. And so what we notice a lot of the time is that people, again, are really good at sales when they can get in front of people, meet with them face to face, do a consultation, but they just aren't getting themselves that opportunity enough. And they're kind of like saying things on the initial point of contact over a phone call with the lead that's kind of turning them away or making them not want to do the consultation or just not getting them across the finish line into that consultation. So, Angel, why don't you talk a little bit about that and kind of like what you see from people, the number one mistakes you typically see people making when it comes to appointment setting in their business, and yeah, just all about that stuff.
Yeah, so well, with this client in particular that you mentioned, I know you asked her like, well, when you get in front of people, how often are you closing the sales? And she was like, well, I think like she said 80.
80%.
Yeah, she had an 80% closing rate. And I think that's a question that a lot of people need to ask themselves, even when they're struggling with closing sales, is like, how many people have I gotten in front of over the past week or past month or, whatever it is, and how many have I sold? And I think when you asked her that, she kind of had like this realization with like, oh, okay, I just need to get in front of more people. And I think people need to realize it's the moment that you get that call from a potential client, the sales process starts right then and there, right? Because sometimes people they might have hit like their last straw with their dog and they're like that's how it was for me before I even got into training. This was like probably like 12, 13 years ago. I hit my last straw with my dog and I instantly, like nearly in tears, started calling around.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time that's how it is for people. They hit their last straw, they have a very embarrassing moment with their dog and they start calling around to trainers. But even if it isn't like, a desperate last straw type situation, most people, they're just calling around, like kind of going down the list on Google, unless they have like word of mouth recommendations and they know exactly who they want to call. Generally, they're just calling down the list and wanting to talk to the first human being that they can speak to about their problems. So with, a missed call, they might leave a message, they might not, but they're just going to call the next person, or maybe they do submit a contact form or they're in communication via text message, but then they happen to call another trainer. That trainer immediately answers the phone and gets them scheduled for a consultation, meaning, okay, I'm going to be able to get in front of a trainer face to face tomorrow, and I'm going to be able to tell them all of my problems and potentially get a solution. So, point being, that sales process starts right off the bat. As soon as you get a call, you want to be able to get them locked in. Um,
Correct.
Locked in ideally with a sale, but locked in at least with a consultation. And I
Yep.
think a lot of people will notice too, even with other businesses, anytime you're on the phone with an appointment setter, they can be a little, I wouldn't say pushy because you don't necessarily
Mhm.
want to be pushy, but a little bit dominant with the conversation. So, not really kind of like tiptoeing around like, oh, we can get a consultation scheduled if you want, but no, like this is the process. This is what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and schedule a consultation. I have this day and this day available. Which day works best for you? So it's like you're automatically putting them on the schedule without really asking them, and the rest just kind of flows. But
Yeah.
I think it's super important again for people to ask themselves that question is with these people that I'm getting in front of over the last couple of weeks, how many have I sold? So that way you can have that realization for yourself with like, I am good at this. I just need to be in front of more people.
Yeah, super well said. And so I was pulling something up here while you were saying this because you made me think about this. So we have a sales training inside of our program for all of our clients, and inside the slideshow, when I built this, I wrote down some like things that when I was doing some research really just stood out to me. So now you guys can fact check this if you want, of course, and like see the different independent sources and stuff like that. But from my own like anecdotal point of view, businesses that I've run, and just like having worked with over 200 dog training businesses at this point, I have definitely seen this to be the truth. And I think a lot of people will probably see this in their own business as well. So here are just some important things that I've kind of picked up. So the first thing is like speed matters like a lot, right? Like that is just a fact. If you're somebody who is not getting back to your leads quickly or you're missing calls, it's just you're always going to have an uphill battle when it comes to setting appointments. So the first thing I have written down here is 50% of leads will work with the organization that contacts them first. Second thing is organizations that contact a lead within the first hour are 7 times more likely to qualify the prospect than an organization that responds in 2 hours. Responding to leads within the first minute increases conversions by 391%. And then finally, 30% of your prospects will go to a competitor if you don't respond quickly enough. So I would even say it's probably more with paid advertising. I think that what they're even talking about there is potentially like word of mouth referrals are factored into that. People who were told that, hey, you got to go and work with, Joe's dog training. Like 30% of those people that if you don't get back to them quick enough, they will go to somebody else. And
Mhm.
so that is a very vague term, quick enough, right? And that's kind of subject. Like, what does that mean to people? I know from personal experience, Angel, you and I have spoken about this before, and I've heard from this from a lot of clients. And everyone kind of jokes with me and says the same thing that they're like, even as a business owner, if I call another business and I know they don't answer, I know they're probably busy. But I'm kind of like, even admittedly, I'm kind of like the nightmare client who will go like, oh, I called this plumber or this electrician, they didn't answer. I'm just gonna hedge my bets. Maybe they never call me back, so I'll just call the next person on the list. Like everybody does this, and
Yeah.
so I think that you can kind of delude yourselves into thinking, well, it's me. Like, why would somebody not want to work with me, right? And so, like, once you accept the fact that we're no different, and that to your point, Angel, we need to honor the fact that somebody has reached a threshold here where something happened that led them to want to call you. And so really spend some time if you're listening to this and if you're having a hard time like making sales, you don't have the amount of clients you want to have inside of your business. Think about those facts and just kind of like the importance of speed. This is why, I harp on this with all of our clients, and why we do so much for people when it comes to even building automations for them in their business to respond to missed calls, respond to contact forms. But there really is no substitute at all for just answering the phone call when it initially comes in.
Yeah. And when I mentioned before, like asking yourself that question, how many sales have I made over the last, couple of weeks when I've been in front of people? I'm talking like looking more at the bigger picture versus like, oh, the last, 4 in-person consults, I didn't sell them right on the spot because that is only 4. You want to
Yeah.
look at more of a bigger picture. So even
Yeah.
if you used to do consults, Think of that. If you used to do consults and then you just stopped doing them for the past like 1 to 2 months, take all of that into consideration. But look at more of like the bigger picture, because if you're getting in like, 30 to 40 leads a month and you've been able to close even half of those, that's still like really good profit. But again, just considering like over time, all of the consults that you've done, I can't do the math right now, but you can. Um, but ask yourself that question, and you'll be surprised at how many of those you've been able to sell. It can get a little what's the word? You can get down on yourself by doing a couple of consults and maybe not selling them right away. I think people have like these panicky moments with that.
Yeah.
But those are the same people, like the client we talked to recently, where you ask the question, how many people, when you're getting in front of them, are you selling? And then that's what helped her come to the realization is like, okay, I am actually really good at this. I usually sell like 80%. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different directions that we could go with this. I think that the number one thing that I always talk to people about, because I'm kind of like a psycho, self-admittedly, when it comes to talking about sales, like I feel like it's something that I'm super passionate about. I'll never forget. I heard Mark Cuban talking about this one time that he's like, there are probably so many great business ideas that just died on somebody's desk or somebody's desktop in their business because they just don't know how to sell. And so I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You know, if you're trying to start a dog training business, what you really need to be focusing on really good, getting good at doing is sales. Because if you can do that, most of you guys out there already know how to do the training. You could do, pet obedience training in your sleep. The thing that most people struggle with, and it's oftentimes the thing that people spend the least amount of attention on and trying to learn is sales.
Yeah.
But again, the reason I said there's so many different directions I could go with this is because we could get into sales. And I know we've talked about that. I'm sure there will be many more videos where we talk about that. But if I just want to get back to this, I think this is the core of this whole conversation, that if you are not making as many sales and working with as many clients on a monthly basis that you want to be, and to caveat this, you're getting enough leads, because if you're not getting leads, obviously this is totally irrelevant, right? Like that's the first thing that needs to get done. But if you're getting leads, say you're getting even like 10 leads in a month and you only make 2 sales, ask yourself the question of like, okay, where is this going wrong? If you're getting in front of all 10 people and you're not making sales, yeah, then we can have that discussion about handling objections and how are you conducting your consultation? What are you saying to these people that's making them not sign up? But really, what I would bet a lot of money on is you're getting a lot of people who are calling you, hey, I heard about your, hey, I found you online. How much does it cost? And you're just going right into the pricing, or you're going right into the programs, or you try and fend that conversation, that question off a little bit, and you go, well, I really need to kind of see the dog, what's going on first, and they go, I just need a ballpark estimate. What is this looking like? Well, it depends on how long the dog is here for, anywhere between $2,000 to $4,000. You just lost them. You
Mhm.
just lost them because like all they're hearing is $4,000, right? And people have these weird misconceptions about what this is supposed to cost because they hear about people that do PetSmart training and they do Petco training or whatever, group classes that are $25, and they're comparing that against what you're offering.
Mhm.
And you had no time to build a rapport. You had no time to really show them the value of what we do is very different from going to one of these group classes. And so that's why, to me, just be adamant. If you are looking for more work, if you're looking to sign more people up, just have a hard and fast rule in your business where I do not give pricing over the phone. And if people are going to walk away because you're not willing to give them pricing over the phone, so be it. Because I'll tell you what, it's very unlikely. Oh, I just lost Angel here. She'll probably be back in a second. I'll just keep talking here. But it's very, very unlikely that you're going to tell that person, hey, yeah, this is $4,000 after they really kind of beat you down to get a price out of you. And you're going to say, hey, this is $4,000. And they're going to say, great, take my credit card. It's always going to be, hey, let me talk to my spouse. Let me talk to my husband or my wife or whatever it is and get back to you. And very rarely do those people actually come back. Some do, but that's another thing that you could track inside of your business. So listen, this all just comes back to um, making sure that you're tracking your numbers, right? So again, if you do the analysis and you find out that I'm just not getting that many consultations, but when I do get consultations, I close them, then that's the main thing you need to focus on. How do I get more people over the hump here and actually get them into consults? So let me hit the pause button here and see if I can get Angel back into this call. Give me 1 sec, guys. We'll be right back.
Right. Sorry about that, guys. I was having some computer issues. But going back to what Kevin mentioned about like really analyzing the entire situation as far as like what is happening up until that point of ultimately not getting enough sales is really like think of it very detailed. So, when you get a call in, why you're not scheduling the consult, think of literally everything. What questions did they ask? And was I especially considering the prices question. Did I answer that? Or were you in the middle of working with a dog and you're trying to rush them off the phone? Were you building any rapport on the phone?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even people's like personalities and the way that they talk to people, like me personally, I know that I have to be a little bit more outgoing. And so that is something that I like make an active effort to do. And I think that's just, the reality for some people. So
Mm-hmm.
think of all of those things, like the way that you're talking to people. If something that again, like you said, made it feel like you were rushing them off the phone, little things like that. So it's not always like, oh, they didn't seem interested in enough, or they didn't want to schedule a consult, or whatever it is. Like think about things that you're doing on your end as well that can help change that.
Yeah.
And then even with setting that appointment, you don't want it to be too far out. You don't want to say, oh, I have an availability, next Friday. They're going to be waiting a whole week and a half, but it's really important to try to get them in within those first couple of days that you're talking to them on the phone. So
Mm-hmm.
analyze it all on like an almost microscopic level to think of what the potential clients need more on their end, and then also what you could potentially be changing to reel them in.
So true. Yeah, that's a big thing. Like I could be there in 10 days. Like what what I want that? Like absolutely not. Like the thing is it's an interesting thing here where the society that we live in now, stuff has become so accessible and easy for all of us. You can watch Netflix on your phone in bed, like in an airport. You can order something off Amazon. And you honestly sometimes, like, I hate to even admit this, it's like 2 day shipping. Is it what is this, a joke? Like, because
Sometimes
you can
they're
even
like,
get it in some cases same day,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
So the idea that we can get away with, oh yeah, I can get to you in 10 days. I just think that sometimes people are not going to go for that. And so listen, if you were be honest with yourself, if you were genuinely that busy and you're like, I can't even squeeze in a consultation, an hour of my time until a week and a half from now or 2 weeks, well, that's a whole different thing. Like you should probably be looking to hire and like buy some of your time back, I would say. But um, be brutally honest. Like, am I really, trying to do everything I can to get this person in as soon as possible? And do I just need to get more efficient with my time? There's so many different things you can do to get more efficient with your time. Time blocking out time in your schedule to be like, this is when I do consultations, non-negotiable. That was an interesting realization I came to 2 years ago that was like, wow, when I start getting busy, I stop making time on my calendar to do more sales. And then all of a sudden, I'm not as busy anymore in a couple weeks. Right. So,
Yeah.
what I need to do is, even though it feels counterintuitive, leave spots open for consultations, for sales calls, and stuff like that, or else it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's a very, very important part. And I feel like people should think of this more often, but it's difficult when you're also like tied up in the daily like schedule of training dogs and, letting dogs out. And obviously everything that comes along with not only being a trainer, but being a dog training business owner is some people's, I guess, reason for not doing in-person consultations is really the time that it takes. And they say it's really, not feasible to do in-person consultations because then I'm going to be super busy and the driving time, I still have dogs to work and other like lessons to go to and things like that. But you wouldn't have those dogs to train or those lessons to go to unless you made those sales. So it's important to set that time away in order to work at getting those sales so that you have, those dogs to train. So
Yes.
it's a tough schedule to manage, I think, but it's super important. Just as important as literally everything else in your business is really understanding not only time management, but setting those times aside specifically to make sure that you are tending to those potential clients and getting those sales.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, what I hear from people when they're telling me that they can't do in-person consultations is this is hard. Doing it this way is hard, right? Which the truth is, it is. It's more time in the car. It's more unknown. What if I drive there and I don't get the sale? I mean, that's a whole different thing. Like, I think that you got to look at that, like you were saying, Angel, before, holistically, not like I didn't make a sale today and I spent $15 on gas. It's like, who cares? Because if you do 20 in a month, and you make 14 sales because of it, even if three people in a row said no, you're still going to be making such a crazy return on your investment. Like, who cares about the gas?
Yeah.
But what I've really been spending some time thinking about is I think it's human nature to go into this is hard. There has to be an easy way to do this, right? And there's ways to make things less hard, but it doesn't ever get like not hard. It gets like easier to manage the difficulty of it, I guess is what you should be able to say, right?
Yeah.
And everything is hard. Not making sales is hard. So like which type of hard do you want to have? Do you want to the one where it's like I had to drive and spend some time and it was yeah, it took up more energy in my time, but I made the sale? Or do you want the hard of like nobody's buying? Because I could tell you what I would take like 100 times out of 100, right? Which is like go and meet with them, spend the time, build a connection, and even if they say no, there's a higher likelihood that that person's going to call you back because you have a connection with them than the person who you talk to for 5 or 10 minutes and they say, "Oh, we're really interested. Let me call you back." Like very rarely do they actually come back.
Yeah. Well, I will say that my life mantra is embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
So try to think of life through that and business through
Mm-hmm.
that. Nothing is going to be, well, maybe some things in life might be a little bit easier, but owning a business is not easy. Being a dog
Yeah.
trainer sometimes is not easy. Doing both is not easy. And I think that just goes without saying. So just embrace, the fact that you are a business owner and you have the ability to, make these sales. And again, it's not going to be easy, but at the end of the day, when you're making these sales and you get to a point where you're making goals and things like that, it's going to be worth it. And you're doing something that you obviously have a passion for doing. So just embrace the chaos or embrace the hard in the moment, and it's all
Yes.
going to pay off.
So well said. Yeah. And another part of this as well is what I start hearing from people is I don't have the time. And here's the really difficult pill to swallow is there's people that are doing the same exact thing as you that do have the time and they make the time.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thing to look at, You just got to become more efficient with your time. That's the answer. I've never had the realization of like how much more efficient I could become with my time than when I became a parent. Like when you're not a parent, you're like I'm so busy. I can't imagine like, if I had to have kids and like when you do have kids, you start realizing like, yeah, there's no excuses. I just got to find a way to get it done anyway. And
Yeah.
so there's always ways to get more efficient. And this exists on both planes. People who are brand new and it's just them running the business by themselves. And then even businesses that are more established and have been around for even 10, 15, 20 years. Like this is a really interesting thing that I've been seeing for different businesses. Um, Not to name anybody, of course, because like we all, kind of go through phases and stuff like that. And um, you know, never in a world would I ever take like joy in seeing anybody else struggle. But like I've seen this like happen where people start getting busy and they start hiring trainers and stuff like that. And they're getting a bunch of leads. And they're like, the thing that made them great and the thing that made them stand out in their environment and their market was that they had this personalized touch. And then when they try and scale, they stop doing all of that stuff and they start like doing sales over the phone because like we're too busy, we don't have the manpower to go and do that or whatever the excuse may be. And, you know, we have clients that have big businesses that still do in-home consultations, the $1 million companies with 7 trainers and stuff like that. They find a way to make it work. And they keep doing well. But I know of a couple of companies in particular that I've kind of like, you know, seen over the past year, like in markets that we have clients in, where they're hemorrhaging employees and they're hemorrhaging money clearly because they're not making sales because they've stopped doing the things that like made them really, really appealing and great in the beginning. So, you know, I heard somebody talk about this recently where there's kind of a misconception when it comes to scaling your business and what that means. I think a lot of times people think it means like time to scale, time to start doing things differently. Whereas what it actually means is we want to scale. Let's start doing more of what already is working really well and not lose that. Because it's very easy to start doing different stuff. And then you start convincing yourself that there's outside factors that are influencing your business and the lack thereof, lack of success, instead of taking the long, hard look in the mirror and going, oh, wait a second, like I've changed something substantial here. So I've totally gone on a different direction here. Angel, I'm going to need you to kind of bring me back in to what we were talking about before. But I just felt like that would be very helpful to some people, like because I think sometimes people can listen to these calls and they're like, well, I'm not in that situation. I have trainers already, and you know, I'm just in a different situation than the person who's just getting started out.
Yeah. Well, I think all of that just like goes without saying is when there's a system that works, whether you have other trainers that work with you or it's just you, when there's a system that works, stick to it. Don't let, 2 consults that you haven't sold or even 4 consults that you haven't
Yeah.
sold in a row be your reason to think that things need to be completely changed up. And even when you do want to grow, again, if there's a system that worked when were just a one-man team, keep that same system, but you can grow it. You can have yourself and another trainer doing the same system, both doing consults. You're could potentially double those sales, but again, keep the system that works. It can still grow
Yeah.
without, diminishing what is working.
Yeah, yeah. And just a piece of advice for people, if you are looking to hire on trainers and stuff like that, and you're looking to get into that next phase in your business, the recommendation that I always make to people and what I have seen work the best is don't look to outsource the sales. That's what people start doing. Oh, I'll have my trainer do the sales, right? Your trainer probably doesn't have the same experience, nor do they have the same authority that you do as the owner and founder of your company. Like don't lose sight of that like there is a lot of weight that goes along with somebody speaking to the owner of the business, right? And so what I always tell people to do is finding really good salespeople is very difficult, first off, because they're a hot commodity, especially in today's world where a lot of companies like a tech company, they're paying people 100 grand base salary and then commission on top of that to be like a really high level closer for them. Now, obviously, you wouldn't be looking to bring somebody like that on, but the point still stays the same. If somebody's going to be working for you and making your business all this money, they start kind of going like, what if I could do this myself? Or, maybe I can get into a different vertical where there's just more money to be made and stuff like that. But you can find really talented salespeople who will work inside of your business, and you just need to train them up. Like that's more than likely what it is. You find people who have really good qualities and you can train them. But regardless of all of that, my main point here is when you start growing your business and you're ready to start taking on trainers to accommodate more work, that's exactly it. Take on trainers. Don't take on trainers who are hybrid trainers answering the phones and, doing sales. And sometimes they do some marketing for you. Like, no, have them fulfill the work, have them do that. And if they are good at other stuff, sure, they can help out here and there. But you want to offload the technical, like the technician work that you're doing, which is training dogs. And all you want to be doing at a certain point is working on the business, no longer working in the business where you're training dogs holding leashes, You want to be the one who's going and doing consultations and filling up your trainer schedules. That's going to allow you to scale to the point where you have like 5 trainers, 6 trainers, 7 trainers. And at that point, your business will be so profitable that if you even want to kind of make that graduate to that next level of, I want to step into more of a management role and have someone doing sales, then you can do that. But don't make the mistake that everybody makes in the beginning at a certain point, which is I'll just have them do sales and stuff like that, because they're not a salesperson, they're a dog trainer, and they're very different skills.
Right.
So I hope you guys found this helpful today. I know we kind of went all over the place per usual, but we're gonna wrap it up for today right now. But Angel, is there anything else that you want to finish up with here for today?
No, I don't have anything else. I feel like we covered most of it and more.
All right, wonderful. Cool. All right, guys. Well, as always, thanks for watching. If you like the video, do us a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, any topics that you would like for us to cover, or just any comments or questions, and we will do our best to answer them in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. Catch you later.
Bye.